Imagine a scenario where the U.S., come November, is in complete disarray. No one knows who the president is. There's lawsuits going on. It's November. It's a week after the election, and everyone's like, we don't know. Several states are giving press conferences where the state legislature is saying, these are not our results. We did not certify these. We have the constitutional authority over the elections, and these are not the real certified results. The governor says, well, I say they are. And so everyone's just like shrugging. Well, who's giving the orders then? Who's giving the orders to the other bases? And then you get something light where they just say, look, we've got the UN Secretary General, of course, who has worked with the United States, is going to, in the interim, have someone and give us a general view of like how we can stay organized. And that's the first step in. If the U.S. does dissolve into a greater conflict, then the people who are already stationed overseas just get told, don't worry, chain of command isn't broken. Here's your new boss.
Yeah, some UN or NATO commander, et cetera, who is in charge. The only reason why I don't think the divorce is possible or even the civil war is possible is because I go back to 2020 when General Milley said that he had private conversations with China to let them know that he would let them have fair warning if Trump were actually to do anything. And you say, well, wait a second, why would you go against the commander-in-chief? And you realize, the military is a little different than the commander-in-chief. So I think the military complex is so strong and so powerful that if there was the inkling of a civil war, those on the other side would be
there is no other
killed.
side. This is movie versions of civil wars.
Yeah.
It
would be over before it started.
No, in almost every civil war in the world ever, it is bubbling up factions who randomly assert control for some reason. And it's an avalanche. There's no scenario, or I should say it's extremely unlikely in any circumstance where you get the states breaking apart and then declaring that they're joining a union. That's just what happens with the United States in 1861 is a group of states that were basically focused around key issues and geographically connected, but also politically aligned. And so when actually there was one small piece of in the South, I can't remember, was it Louisiana or something, that stayed union. They were like resisting.
Oh, look.
Yeah, something like that. We looked it up before when we were looking up the Abraham Lincoln's election in 1864. A lot of people seem to think that civil war is going to be California going, we declare civil war. What's going to happen is 30 guys from Eastern California are going to just basically take over and say, we don't abide by any of this anymore. National divorce doesn't happen when Donald Trump raises an army on the East Coast to the California West Coast. Like, none of that will happen. What is more likely to happen is Texas files a lawsuit to the Supreme Court again in November saying, we have seen now numerous instances over the past two elections where they are subverting the Constitution and violating the legislative authority over elections. The Supreme Court once again says, we will not intervene. Texas then says, then we've got a problem because we will not recognize this man as president after everything that's already happened over the past 4 years. Then you get, it's remarkable. In 2020, we had, I think, 48 states were involved in a lawsuit suing Pennsylvania because they violated the state legislature's process of the elections. And so this was Texas v. Pennsylvania, and the Supreme Court refused to hear it. Basically, we have been in 4 years of limbo where, as much as people don't want to admit it in the mainstream, you have high-level state actors. I'm talking like AGs, governors, senators, who do not believe Biden actually won. Now, I know the media talks election deniers. Oh, please. Every single one of these Democrats that calls a Republican election deniers an election denier themselves. So we know exactly where this is going. If this time around, considering what we're seeing with the southern border, the actions of the Texas National Guard versus the feds, if there is another, whatever you want to call it, shadow campaign that results in states filing lawsuits against each other, and the Supreme Court once again refuses to intervene, it's not that Texas is going to call up Arizona and say, you with us, boys? Because we're going to go, hoorah. What's going to happen is Texas is going to say we're deploying our National Guard to the border, and we no longer regard the federal agents as having authority here. Federal agents then say, no, we're taking command from Joe Biden. But then you've got federal agents who live in Texas being told by the Texas government, that's not the president. Trump is actually the president. You take orders from him. And they live there. And so it's going to be really interesting when federal agents who are in places like Texas are being told, look, when we cooperate with law enforcement, it's Trump's federal agents, not Biden's. And then things start getting weird.